What's going on? Matt Savoca here from Awesemo.com, bringing you the NFC Championship game FanDuel Contenders video. The rubber match between the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams, arguably the toughest division in football all season long. The NFC West just beat up on each other, so it's fitting that two NFC West teams find their way into the NFC Championship game. A 45.5 point total, and currently the Rams are favored at home by 3.5 points. Before we get into my top plays, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you could give me, Matt Savoca, a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. We'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, FanUp. If you haven't checked out FanUp, now is the best time to do so. They've got NFL and NBA contests like the Conference Chaos contest with $4,000 winner take all in the NFL, just $10 to enter, and they've got NBA contests that are up to $1,000 in prizes. Use promo code Awesemo to get 2,000 bonus points, which is the equivalent of $20 used to bet on the site without a deposit. That's awesome. Promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, when you sign up for FanUp today. Okay, guys, on the screen here, you see my 10 through 6 of my top players for this NFC Championship game. At number 10 and tied at number 9 are Tyler Higbee and Matt Gay. And yes, you can play kickers on home favorite teams, even those that are favored by just 3.5 points. But that's more of a floor play than a ceiling play. For tournaments, I think you go with the lower floor, higher ceiling option, and that's Tyler Higbee to me. Continually gets used in the red zone and is that third receiving option after his teammate Odell Beckham, who is definitely the second option in the Los Angeles Rams receiving corps, but they continue to make a concerted effort in Los Angeles to get him the ball in the red zone. That's why we've seen an explosion of touchdowns this season for Odell Beckham since joining the Rams. He's in the optimal lineup 26% of the time. George Kittle is in the optimal lineup a third of the time. A really solid ceiling projection despite not having more than 63 yards receiving in any game since week 15. But remember, week 15, in the 3 weeks before that, he had an average of 141 receiving yards. The ceiling is unparalleled in terms of tight ends on this slate for George Kittle. Then at number 6, Eli Mitchell. A little banged up. He's definitely going to play, but his usage has been definitely taken into because of Deebo Samuel's usage, but still in expected fantasy points per game, I still expect Eli to get plenty of touches here, and he's getting over 25 fantasy points in 10% of our simulations. He's a solid floor and median play, a so-so ceiling. I don't think he's getting 25 fantasy points here. I think it's closer to 15 to 20, but still at 12,000 on FanDuel, we'll take that as a flex play. He's in the optimal lineup 34% of the time. He doesn't quite crack the top 5 though. Who does? Let's watch and find out. At number 5, Cam Akers, and Cam Akers is being utilized exactly how they wanted to utilize him at the beginning of the season before the Achilles tendon, and hats off to him for getting back. Now, the efficiency has been so-so, but an 81% snap share, 27 total opportunities, 24 rushes, including 6 in the red zone. I'm gonna give him a gimme, even though he had those fumbles that arguably let Tampa Bay get back into the game. Fumbles they tend to be random here, and so opportunity is what I'm going to chase here, and he has that going for him in spades. The San Francisco defensive front is no joke. They are tough against the run. They are 4th in PFF team defensive grades, but still Cam Akers is scoring over 25 fantasy points 22% of the time in our latest sims, and he's scoring nearly 15 fantasy points as a median projection. I like Akers' usage, and especially because Eli Mitchell's usage continues to dwindle because of Deebo Samuel. I think Cam Akers quietly has some of the best guaranteed workload of any player on this slate. He's in the optimal lineup a solid 40% of the time. At number 4, Jimmy Garoppolo. And I already know what you're asking me. Like, how can you do this to me? You are asking me to play a player who has scored 10.2 fantasy points combined in his last 2 starts. He had had 4 fantasy points last week. I mean, this is a player on a team that relies heavily on their running game, and they're really hiding Jimmy Garoppolo, but Garoppolo is accurate. You can say that. He's scoring 25 fantasy points a quarter of the time, and I really think that's because we've seen him, even against this same Rams team, air it out. In Week 18, when these two teams last played and San Francisco pulled off the upset, he had 316 passing yards. So assuming the Los Angeles Rams offense shows up, the only way that this team keeps pace is likely with a decent game from Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got a median projection of 15 fantasy points, and because of his poor performance, his salary is kind of diminished here. I like him especially as a flex play, but look at the optimal MVP percentage, 11% chance of getting there. He's in the optimal lineup 44% of the time. At number 3, Deebo Samuel, and he was the best player on the field by far in that win against the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round. And while he only had 3 receptions for 44 yards receiving, as usual, he was a monster at the running back position. I mean, with the game on the line in that 2-minute drill on 3rd and 7, they're running it up the gut with Deebo Samuel, and it works. It works easily against the Green Bay Packers, who are playing well defensively, and Los Angeles has been playing well defensively as well. Their defensive front is built to stop the pass first and foremost, but these two teams know each other well. They know their little tricks, and I expect Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan to have plenty of tricks themselves. So I do think that Deebo has a chance to fail here. I don't think that he has under 15 fantasy points. I really don't. I think we're looking at closer to the 15 to 20, and I'm really happy to see in 27% of our simulations, he's scoring 25 fantasy points or more. He is in the optimal lineup 46% of the time. At number 2, Matthew Stafford, and he had the game of his life last week. 366 passing yards, 9.6 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, even ran for 6 yards. That's good for Matthew Stafford. And of course, that bomb to Cooper Kupp to set up the final play. We're always going to remember him running down the field, winding up his arms, trying to get everyone to the line to spike it. He eventually does. Rams win the game, and here we are. Stafford has been playing great. He had 11.9 yards per attempt while being needed sparingly in that wild card weekend win against the Arizona Cardinals, and he's got a 40% chance of scoring 25 fantasy points again. Even though the San Francisco defense has been improving, they're healthier in the secondary, they still have weaknesses here that Stafford knows pretty well. He could definitely exploit them. The 19-point median projection at 16,500, that's not going to cut it, but he does have a really solid ceiling here. As usual, we want to play quarterbacks as much as we can. I like him at MVP, but I especially like him at that flex position where he's in the optimal lineup 41% of the time. Matthew Stafford, a 57% chance of being in that optimal lineup. I like him a lot. Now, before I reveal my final play, my number 1 play on FanDuel for this NFC Championship game, just want to remind you guys, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you always know when we're going live. You guys know what to do. And if you guys could give me a follow on Twitter at Draftaholic, that would be much appreciated as well. Also want to give one more shout out to our presenting sponsor, FanUp. Use promo code Awesemo when you sign up, AWESEMO, for 2,000 bonus points, the equivalent of $20 to use on their site. No deposit required. Okay, guys, let's get into my number 1 play on FanDuel for this NFC Championship. At number 1, did you really expect anybody else? Of course, it's Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is the best player in football this season. He showed us all with 9 receptions for 183 yards last week. And before the big duel in Kansas City on Sunday night, Cooper Kupp was the superstar of the Sunday slate. You can't really ask for anything more from a wide receiver. He's number 1 in every statistical measure you could think of this season, and he's kept it up in the postseason. They're going to do everything in their power to stop him, and it still may not be enough. He has nearly 20 points as a median projection, and nearly 47% of the time, he's scoring 25 fantasy points in nearly 17% of our simulations, a number usually reserved for a quarterback, he is the optimal MVP, even at 16,000. And he's got a 41% chance of being an optimal flex play. He sneaks in ahead of his quarterback. Really surprisingly, but I mean, it's Cooper Kupp. It's not that surprising. 58% chance for Cooper Kupp to be in the optimal lineup. And that is going to do it for the FanDuel NFC Championship game contenders video. If you're looking for the DraftKings version of this video or the AFC Championship game version of this video, they are all around here somewhere on the channel. Go ahead and look for it. We will be back with all of the Super Bowl content you could possibly want in the 2 weeks leading up to the big game. Until then, I'm Matt Savoca from Awesemo.com. We'll see you guys next time.